Development said to us, you know, you guys should really collaborate with Mass Innovation Network. And because we work with a lot of the larger companies, Mass Innovation, they work with a lot of the smaller innovative companies, and they were so right. It's just been a great partnership. We've been doing a lot of really nice events together, bringing the small and the large companies together and creating those partnerships. So Sophia Cabanas, come on up, Sophia. So Sophia has been my partner in crime with economic development. Between the two of us, we have a great Rolodex of resources, whether it's workforce development or real estate or municipal contacts or whatever it might be. So if you need anything to help your business expand, talk with one of us. If we don't know it, we know someone who does. So that's part of what our role here as well too. One great resource, there's a lot in the room, is Asha Patel. Where's Asha? Asha, thank you for all your help with today's event. Asha is working double duty both at Mass Innovation and Middlesex 3 as our marketing coordinator. So Asha, welcome, and please, if you haven't met her, please do. And Erin Wraith is our new communications director. She's not here today, but you'll be working with her as well, because one thing we're trying to do is really promote what's going on in the region, all the great stories, all the great programs as well too. So you'll be hearing from Erin. I'm going to hand the clicker over to Sophia to welcome our panelists. And thank you everybody for participating.
Thank you, Stephanie. Good morning, everyone. I'm with Mass Innovation Network. My name is Sophia Cabanas. I'm the executive director. We are based in Burlington at the Innovation Campus, and we are a nonprofit. We work exclusively with startups for 38 years now. So we run the longest running innovation program in the region. And what we do is basically if I know how to do that, I would be very happy. Maybe I messed it up for everybody. So thank you. The program was established in 1986, and you see here some of our winners. E-Ink was one of them when it was a small startup back in 2009, so almost 14, 15 years now. And we usually select the 2021 that make most sense to succeed. It's a very competitive environment, and we don't do that. We have an independent body of about 35 judges to do that. But basically, we invest a ton of time and multiple talent from the ecosystem for as long as 37 weeks in a year. So this is the post-acceleration program that helps them navigate the valley of death and be successful. And if I'm not mistaken, Asha, who was going through our alumni, told me that out of 260 winners, there were 7 or 8 out of business. So a pretty high success rate. We're trying to push innovation outside Boston and Cambridge. So we started working with the city of Lowell 4 or 5 years ago, and we had some amazing success. Actually, one of the co-founders was just named Forbes 30, she's still under 30, to watch, name in Visa Wear, and they have accessories for women that have a panic button hidden. They collaborated with ADT, millions of dollars just 4 years after they were founded. So that's what we want to see more of. And I'm going to skip to this one. About a week ago, we launched an innovation guide for startups. This is free to download from our website, and it has a fairly complete list of whatever startups can find in order to successfully make it into the world. We did a spotlight on Middlesex 3 because we are here and we want to see more here. But when we do the second edition, end of May, we would like to do highlighting more towns. This year we worked a lot with City of Woburn. They had a couple of fantastic startups. One won our medical devices. And if you're interested, let me know, because we'd love to include whoever supports innovation. We have 2 of our startups here talking to you today. Great pleasure to see both Ben and Ahmad. They came to the program, I think, a year apart, and they have done great things that I'm going to let them talk about. I think the most important thing is that we do not charge the startups for anything we offer. It's a combination of funding from the state and from sponsorships from people who have seen what the program does or have been through the program. So very happy to be here and happy to answer any questions. And I think I'm passing it on straight to Ahmad to talk about sustainable agriculture.
Thank you, Sophia. Good morning, everyone. I'm Ahmad. I'm the CEO and founder of Untill. We're a seed stage ag tech company. We're bridging the gap between farm and fork. So we're really at the nexus of food and sustainability. So something to think about. Have you guys ever wondered where your food comes from?
California.
Or how is it that you guys get to eat fresh green vegetables in the dead of winter like it is right now? Well, as you said, the journey is quite long. It takes about 3,000 miles or 8 days for our food to get to us. And over that journey, our food loses half of its nutritional value. And the worst part of it is half of the product that gets harvested doesn't actually make it to the grocery store shelf. And that is the problem that we're working on solving at Untill. We've created a farming platform that allows us to grow food virtually anywhere. We can solve this supply chain problem by cutting down the supply chain from 8 days to under 24 hours. And we can also boost the shelf life of the product from 2 days to over 2 weeks in your fridge. And we do all of this while cutting down carbon emissions by over 30%. So our technology allows us to be a lot more productive than field farms. We can produce 300 times the amount of product on the same unit area of land and use 95% less water than traditional farms. And we don't use any nasty stuff that's associated with agriculture, like all those pesticides and chemicals and stuff. It's called large-scale vertical farming. The large scale because we do it in a big warehouse, and the vertical because we stack our fields on top of each other, like you see in this picture. So a bit about our technology. Vertical farming's been around. It's not a new concept, but the way we do it and our patented technology allows us to be profitable, which is the first in the industry. So because of the way we irrigate, we fit in a lot more cycles per year than any other farm. Our farms are running for a longer period of time, and we can harvest 6 times the amount of product compared to any other vertical farm that's operating.
What is your optimal clear height for the warehouses that you?
So the farm that we have operational now in Hudson is 20 feet tall.
Right.
Ideally, we would want to be at 32. So it's a super high bay warehouse style. And from a sustainability perspective, we use 9 times less power than any other vertical farm. So we really are trying to bring this to a sustainable perspective and half the number of people, which makes us significantly more profitable. So the Hudson facility, which looks like this on the inside, this is a rendering, of course, it's fully automated from seed to harvest with no human contact with the actual product itself. It's decked out with a bunch of sensors that basically read what the plants are doing and autonomously adjust the environment to make sure the plants are always happy. Another piece of our IP is the modularity of the way our farm works, and it allows us to grow a multitude of different crop types like strawberries and lettuce and arugula, all on the same hardware. And we can separate all of the fields from each other just in case there's something wrong or for traceability purposes. It sits on 8,000 square feet. This is the Hudson facility, which is a pilot facility. It's a smaller scale version, and it has the capacity of harvesting about 500,000 clamshells, those plastic boxes that you buy in the grocery store. So a bit about our history. We actually got our start right here in Burlington on the Northeastern Innovation Campus, our research partner. We built 2 of these research farms where we studied our plants, figured out what makes them tick, how to grow them better, and we built a prototype version of our production hardware. And then we graduated and moved to said large warehouse in Hudson. And we built out this warehouse, we gutted it and built it out to a vertical farm, which is what it looks like inside today. This picture was actually taken a few days ago of some greens growing inside. We just started production and harvesting has started yesterday.
If you go to your next phase, what's your target square footage for a warehouse?
So next phase would be a built to suit as opposed to a retrofit. This facility was a retrofit, but geometry really plays a big role in the way our facility works. So 25,000 square feet is typically where we
Gotcha.
So I'm going to pass it on.
Are we allowed to ask questions?
I think questions are for after the
Yeah.
intros.
I guess that was a question asking about. Save your questions.
Center button.
Left.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Good morning, everybody. So I'll start off with a question. Does anybody know what the universe's most abundant element is? There's more of this than any other element in the entire universe.
Hydrogen.
Okay, thank you. So looking at the transportation sector today, we need to make a change, right? So we're burning fossil fuels, which is heating up the planet. So if we need to transition to a new energy source, why would we not want to transition to the universe's most abundant element, which also happens to be a zero emission energy source? I don't know either. So, hi, my name is Ben Slayden, founder and CEO of Carmyn, which is an energy transition company focused on transitioning commercial fleets and greater society to hydrogen fuel cell transportation. The two biggest issues with hydrogen are supply or lack of supply, and the price of hydrogen because of the lack of supply, both of which we aim to solve. But we're kind of going about this in kind of a unique way. Because hydrogen is kind of a nascent market that's not necessarily ready for prime time just yet. We are embedding ourselves with current fleet operators by serving their current needs, and we're innovating within today's marketplace, if that makes sense. So what's this hydrogen thing? So when you think of an EV today, you really think of a battery EV, a BEV. But there's another type of EV out there. It's called a fuel cell electric vehicle. So if you look at EVs, you have battery electric vehicle, you have fuel cell electric vehicle. Both of them are electric vehicles. It's just one's powered by a battery, one's powered by a tank of hydrogen in your car. Like you see most of the OEMs. So sorry, I'm hitting my leg there. And so you see most of the OEMs are already producing fuel cell electric vehicles. Toyota is selling their Mirai in California today, which, lo and behold, that's where all the hydrogen fueling stations are, which we hope to solve. BMW makes their iX5 and is producing it in Europe. Hyundai has the Nexo, GM has the Hydrotec truck. Airbus is actually flight testing their hydrogen-powered aircraft today with the scheduled operation date of 2035. So it's all kind of coming, but then you ask, okay, well, if I can go buy a Mirai today, where am I going to fill it up at? Which is where I come in. So we aim to build out a distribution network, and we are building out that distribution network today by serving the needs of the fleets today, essentially. So that's literally providing on-site energy sources for diesel pickups, literally heavy-duty equipment and stuff like that. So we've taken what you would consider to be like a gas station. So instead of all the commercial fleets going to a gas station, we provide on-site energy sources to where they could fill up on their own site, essentially, which is an automatic emissions reduction. And so instead of 100 vehicles going to the gas station, they could literally be filled up overnight or with one of my on-site tanks, which cuts down on their emissions and traffic on the roadways, et cetera, et cetera. And with my on-site fuel tanks as well, that's a significant improvement over legacy underground storage tanks that tend to leak into the soil, into the water table, et cetera, which is why Harvard University is likely to order a couple of tanks from me because they want to rip out their underground tanks, so just because of the environmental risk associated with it. But I'll take a step back, more high level, if you will. So everything you see here is working towards building out a ubiquitous supply of hydrogen, if you will. So step one, essentially embedding ourselves with commercial fleets now so we can serve as an internal energy advisor, helping to influence those fleet purchasing decisions over time and help steer them towards a path of more sustainable transportation. Step 2, to produce hydrogen, you need a renewable energy source, which is why we are developing and deploying on-site solar canopies over those same fleet customers' parking lots. Because if you have 100 vehicles, you got to park them somewhere. Normally, it's an open-air parking lot, which is a prime location to deploy an on-site solar canopy, which we are already in design phase 2, essentially a 600 kilowatt system and a 1.5 megawatt system. And then the third step would be to actually deploy an on-site electrolyzer. So each commercial fleet and subsequent business or corporation can have can produce their own hydrogen at the site of consumption. And so you produce your hydrogen from rainwater, essentially. So you literally take water from the sky, you take out the hydrogen, run it through a fuel cell, which Gus will get into in his presentation and whatnot, which generates electricity. It generates water as a byproduct coming out. So with a fuel cell electric vehicle, it's literally water in, water out. Pure zero emission, essentially. But I'll stop there, just so time constraints and whatnot. But 2 additional things that I kind of wanted to touch on real quick is so what you can do, essentially. The first step, I would highly recommend reading Bill Gates' book, just from an informational perspective to get a plug on hydrogen. That's a pretty good book or pretty good primer on where we're going as a society. Then also going back or touching on a future topic as far as how corporations can reduce their carbon footprint and essentially outsource your energy needs to Carmyn. If I'm doing this for hundreds or thousands of fleets, I can do this a lot more efficiently than each individual can, onesie, twosie type of thing. And so I plan on being the energy partner, not only for commercial fleets, but to corporations. So you should see me at Burlington Mall for the next 2 or 3 years. Merrimack Outlets, Rentham Outlets, South Shore Plaza, a mall in New Hampshire. Simon Property Group is pretty keen on deploying Carmyn across their various parking lots because it's the same kind of concept, right? On-site energy sources both for cars and for buildings. So you could deploy this to commercial fleets, you could deploy this to a mall, your favorite grocery store like the Wegmans down the street, et cetera, et cetera. So with that, I will pass it on to you guys. Hopefully not over time.
I won't go through your
sorry, yeah.
Okay, well, there couldn't be a better introduction to what I'm going to talk to you about fuel cells. So Stephanie, brilliant programming, thank you. So I'm Gus Block with Nuvera Fuel Cells. Been with the company since it was founded, which is 2000. Grew out of Arthur D. Little, the Cambridge R&D company, global R&D company. So at that location, in the mid 90s, we were working on fuel cells for transportation. And then we were spun out of Arthur D. Little in 2000 to form Nuvera. We have locations, the main headquarters here in Billerica, and also another headquarters in Milan, Italy. So basically, fuel cell, I just thought it would be useful to describe what it is, and it's basically what makes hydrogen make sense. So a fuel cell is an electrochemical device. It's similar to a battery. It produces DC power, but it's not an energy storage device like a battery. It's using fuel, but not combusting it in an internal combustion engine. So there's an electrochemical reaction between hydrogen fuel that's supplied to it and oxygen that you just acquire from air. And it is basically a device that is producing water with electricity as a byproduct, and that electricity is something that you can use. So a fuel cell, this is showing in the middle a individual fuel cell, and then those are ganged up into a fuel cell stack to create something that looks like on the lower left. So we make what we call a fuel cell engine, and that is comprised of a fuel cell stack with the balance of plant that is required for it to operate. And that makes it easy to integrate into a vehicle. So what we discovered with working with vehicle manufacturers is that to enable their path to market, they don't want to take the time. It takes years to become a fuel cell expert. And so we package the fuel cell stack into a system that is kind of plug and play in an electric vehicle, as Ben mentioned. So here we are in Billerica. You see the plant there. We make fuel cells in different sizes. For about 20 years, we've been making fuel cells for forklift trucks. So this is a special value proposition. Forklift trucks, half of them are electric. They're operating in distribution centers. They run on these batteries that are similar to what these modules on the upper right look like. And if you're running 24/7, you have to take it out of the truck and put it in a charger and put in another one, and they weigh about 3,000 pounds. So it's a huge productivity hit to do changing and charging a battery. So that's a really wonderful application of fuel cells. We package a fuel cell into a battery tray with hydrogen fuel, and then the forklift operator can just drive up to a station and refuel in 2 minutes and be on their way, and you never have to swap anything out. So that's a big driver. And that kind of led to our acquisition in 2014 by Hyster-Yale Group. So this is a company based in Cleveland that makes industrial trucks, including forklift trucks, but also port equipment. And so now we're focusing on larger fuel cell engines for medium and heavy duty applications on-road and off-road, including for shipping ports. So these are some of the demonstrations we have in progress, a number of on-road ones in the United States and China and in Europe. So that is a big focus of the market. Off-road as well. So we have a wheel loader operating, a mining truck, crane. So all of these are sort of traditional diesel-powered equipment. And so it's a big deal to be able to migrate in a practical way to zero emissions. Port vehicles and equipment, these are some of the vehicles that is made by our parent company. We have a fuel cell top loader container handler operating at the Port of Los Angeles, one operating in Valencia, Spain, and then fuel cells for maritime as well is an increasing focus. So I'll stop there and hand it over to the next presenter. Geetha, thank you.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Geetha Ramani. I am the VP of Business Development at MassDevelopment. We are a funding entity in the Commonwealth to support economic development across sectors, both kind of encouraging municipalities and supporting municipalities with some programs that we run, but also the private sector and kind of the for-profit, the nonprofit world, where there is a need for real estate acquisition, land redevelopment, or equipment financing. And so I want to just run through some of our programs that we have. We have a wide toolkit, but I just want to talk about 3 programs that we have that could nicely appeal to many of the companies, emerging startups and technology companies in and around the state for support. Just to give you a snapshot, in 2022 of our presence last year, we deployed about $2 billion. Sorry, these are actually slightly older. I did get $2 billion in about 500 projects across the state. Sorry, these are not fully updated, but that included all of our debt programs and our loans, our tax-exempt bonds, our guarantees, and a number of our grant programs. So MassDevelopment high level has 2 kind of primary areas. Starting at the bottom, real estate, we do a lot of advisory services, and we run some grant programs targeting municipalities that are thinking about reuse of land. But on the financing side, we offer a range of programs, tax-exempt bond financing, which is nicely targeting manufacturers that are looking to expand their presence, charter schools, nonprofits, et cetera. We also offer direct loan participation, coordinated with commercial banks, and guarantees to enhance commercial bank financing, some grant programs, and some other programs, tax credits and PACE. So what I wanted to talk about is first the Emerging Technology Fund, the first tool that I want to mention. You can see these are all of our lending programs and they are quite diverse. But what I want to focus in on is the Emerging Technology Fund, which has been a program that we run for about 2 decades now, and it provides venture debt financing. It's really funding up to $4 million for companies that are innovative, that have an innovative concept that they want to, that they've demonstrated through their piloting and through all of their R&D work, and now they need to scale. And they are looking for either buildings, or they're looking for equipment, or they need workforce development funding. And so our ETF program is well positioned to be able to support that level, where they don't need seed capital, but they need that next level of financing to give them that boost to then launch into commercial operations, which then down the road opens up other financing sources for them. So our ETF program is head up by Kevin Berry, and there is really kind of, just to compare the benefits between, say, going to typical venture debt versus emerging ETF funding, you can see some comparisons of the numbers here, but essentially the ETF program will be covenant light financing that is a little bit longer, but it will be light on the requirements and the covenants, but there still will be collateral backed by assets, IP, etc. And you can see just a snapshot of kind of where our rates would land and the absence of prepayment penalties, et cetera. So this is an excellent tool for companies to explore with our ETF team. In fact, I think we did support Nuvera in its early days. Its transition from Cambridge to the Billerica area back around 2008. And I think E-Ink has also been a company that we've supported in the early stages through our ETF program. So this is one I'd be happy to talk to you more about afterwards, and also connect you with Kevin Berry to learn more. The second tool I want to talk about, PACE. PACE is a very interesting program in the state of Massachusetts. It's actually a program throughout the country to encourage energy efficiency and renewable energy uptake for commercial clients. So think of this as Mass Save, but not for residential homes, but for commercial buildings. MassDevelopment is the manager, if you will, the conduit for the PACE program. The PACE program involves a corporate client working with one of the 17 PACE funders that are out there. These are there are 3 banks on our list, and the remaining are financial service providers, capital providers that can work on providing the PACE financing. And then the third party to the table is the municipalities, where municipalities opt into the PACE program because the way the funding is structured is that if a commercial client wants PACE financing, they secure the PACE financing from a third-party capital provider, and which is actually worked into the betterment assessment for that building. And so that client repays that PACE loan through their tax payments to the municipality every year. And so when the tax payments are paid, a portion of that pays off the PACE financing, and then that is where we come in to help pay that PACE financing off. We do have a team within MassDevelopment under the Green Finance Division that's been rolling out the PACE program across the municipalities and working with clients to get it set up. So as companies in the room might be thinking about how can we be a little bit more focused on reducing our energy consumption, trying to bring in more energy efficient upgrades, trying to move towards more renewable energy investments in our building, PACE can be a tool that can help you during that process. And I'd be happy to talk to you more about this. There are a couple of more slides to kind of give you more details on PACE. Here's this, here are the types of properties we can support. Simon Malls, I think, is another very active PACE utilizer across all of a number of their malls. I think in Connecticut, a number of the Simon properties have pursued PACE. And then we can, consider this even for multifamily housing and for nonprofits. And then this is a snapshot of the type of infrastructure we can fund through the PACE program, which are all part of renovating buildings to bring them into active use and to make them more energy efficient. So, in many ways, thinking about PACE as a low-cost financing program that funds many of these investments that you need in order to make your building more energy efficient makes a lot of sense. And finally, here's a list. We have about 72 municipalities that have opted in. Most recently, Kingsborough and Woburn both opted in within the last 2 weeks, and we're very pleased.
Go Rippers, not.
Not
yet.
yet. Yes, and if there's other communities also, not yet opted in, we're happy to walk the town through the process. Finally, the last program I want to mention is a collaboration actually that we set up about 8 years ago to encourage energy purchasing, bulk purchasing programs. And one program that emanated from this is our early charging station incentive program that Early Bird Power actually executes for us. And so this is another program where if a commercial client is looking to be more sustainable and think about how they are moving their company to decarbonize kind of more broadly, one tool is the incentive programs for the EV charging stations that companies can pursue in their parking lot. So Early Bird Power runs this program. If there are companies that are interested in learning more, Sean Kenny leads this, and I'd be happy to make this introduction. Finally, I just had a few slides in here. I'm going to skip over. Taxes and Bond is another tool that we use. And then this Community One Stop for Growth is our grant portal. This is where we run some grant programs. Collaborative Workspace is the first one that has been used for incubators, setting up incubators around the state. Greentown Labs received some co-working grants way back at the beginning. UPP is another grant program to help bring underutilized buildings back into use. So if there are startups that are eyeing a building that hasn't been used, UPP grant can be tapped for up to $1 million to bring that building back into operation. And then the brownfields. If you're looking at developing a building and their brownfields issues, we have some programs to support that. So there's a lot more players out there in the state of Massachusetts. I mean, we partner with a number of these agencies. We've been trying to do more with MassSave and Eversource, trying to decarbonize a lot of the programs that we are funding through our regular loans and guarantees. And then we're also collaborating with MassDEC on looking to see how we can, through multifamily housing development, how we can encourage more uptake of more energy efficient infrastructure or kind of equipment that's needed for that sector. Let me stop there, and I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
First of all, I want to thank everybody. Geetha, Ben, Ahmad, thank you all for your presentations. That was a lot of great information as well too. And I know that there are some questions, so I do want to save some time for some questions as well too. So I guess we want to do that, but we also want to have more of a conversation as well too, and talking with Lynne as far as other ways that our region can collaborate and work together. And I think it's interesting because I think Middlesex 3 at the heart, we are a convener and we bring folks together to get business deals done. And just listening to you guys, I see just even on this panel, you guys have there's some deals that I can envision happening, and also some financing. Don't forget the financing as well too. So there's a lot going on as well too. Lynne, do you want to jump in as far as that first part with how ways that we can collaborate?
So
as well?
yeah, so I mean, we really wanted to get this group together to think about how we can work together, maybe share best practices. But in addition to that, what could we do as a community? Do we want to think about something like a solar farm or, general composting or EV stations and take advantage of some of the things that we can get from MassDevelopment? So I really want to throw that out there and see what the interest is like for this community, for this area, thinking about some of these ideas that we can pool our resources. because I think all of us have limited resources. We all want to do the right thing, but our resources are limited. But if we work together, I think we could do something great for the area.
So on that point, we're under contract with a anaerobic digestion company looking for a site currently focused between Providence and Worcester. Key issue, need to have a robust wastewater treatment plant system that they can connect to. Hadn't thought about, this area just yet, but based on the question, just throw that out so, we can maybe talk to any of the cities that might be connected. Their site, they really need, 10 to 12 buildable acres to be able to get their plant estimated at about $25 million. And they've already got 3 smaller such facilities in upstate New York up and running. So they've got a good track record for anaerobic digestion. It was kind of the rage about 10 years ago, and it couldn't get off the ground in New England, but now things have changed. And, certain states, Rhode Island, Connecticut, Massachusetts are coming down harder on food waste, providers, which becomes, an asset, anaerobic digestion. So I just throw that out.
So, and let's talk afterwards.
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I was gonna say, I can introduce you. I
might have a site break. Yeah, I think composting is an area that, like, we are now composting in about all our 3 sites of E-Inc. But I think that's an important area. And even things like making the area beautiful with pollinator gardens and things like that, and making sure that we're protecting the land that we do have between our buildings and such, that it doesn't all get a wasteland. At one point I think we should be thinking not just for our buildings, our commercial sites, but for our employees. And we had talked about this idea of, if we had a lot of people together, we could buy, a whole lot of rain barrels and, give them out to our employees, and compost bins and things like that. But it helps when we have, large number to buy in bulk, and obviously to, make it more economical. Because I think that what we practice at the office, we also need to make sure our employees are practicing at home as well. So some ideas around that is also, fruitful for a discussion.
And that's part of the question is, does this resonate with companies? Is this something that you hear happening in your company or other companies, or is it something that we want to continue the conversation perhaps offline to just really work together as a region?
And do we want to continue this group, if you will, have a, Middlesex Street green team, if you will, working on these sort of problems, if you will, and collaborating, working, meeting more regularly, if you will. We had one meeting back in
6 months ago, maybe?
About 6 months ago, where we invited some people in to talk about what their best practices are. But that's where it stopped there, and then this is the second piece of it here. I think it's great hearing all this work that's going on in the area. It's certainly energizing. It's fun.
And so I'm just gonna pause and see whether anyone else has anything to add into whether, in terms of other ways to collaborate or other questions for the panel. Just kind of, we want to get the conversation going with, we hear so much happening with CleanTech. All right, well, we're gonna start right on that.
So question for both Ben and Gus. Is your hydrogen energy gonna translate from transportation to buildings eventually?
Take that first.
Sure, it certainly is. So there are a number of companies working on that already, and the same technology that we make could be used for that. And part of it is just in our own heritage. There's just been a lot of transportation focus as a driver, but there's no reason that the same technology can't be used for buildings. And we're just seeing more demand for that, so we're turning our attention to it.
I can add something.
I was just gonna say, because in the past, our engineering firm, AHA, has designed a data center using some.
Yes, exactly, yeah.
So we do data center work as well, but.
Right.
The answer is absolutely. So there are companies in California like Bloom Energy that's doing it in California today. We literally just put a hydrogen tank on the back of the building. I'm simplifying it. Run through fuel cells to generate your electricity for the building.
So instead of us adding EV chargers to parking lots, we should be adding hydrogen charters?
There's some heated emotions. I'm a town official for Concord. I sit on the climate action committee for the town, and I know there's different tranches, so I would suggest maybe a little bit of both.
Okay, we don't want to jump too far ahead.
But yes, absolutely.
So can I just jump in on, and I'll get you in a second, but Geetha, in terms of the EV charging stations that you guys finance, is there opportunity to finance more hydrogen charging stations?
So
And you're thinking that then, aren't you?
Yes, well, if you look at Biden's IRA, he set aside $9 billion for a hydrogen infrastructure highway or whatnot. So even the federal government is getting behind a hydrogen rollout. So I think it makes a lot of sense to do it at the state level as well. Maybe timing wise, yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. So I do want to just add a clarification that we're not actually funding EV charging stations. Early Bird Power is a partner agency, and they provide the incentive programs to help companies secure the rebate payments after they set up their EV charging stations. So, and I think there are some companies, I think at Chelmsford, there were some early conversations about this, but it's a program that can help companies navigate and obtain and secure the state subsidies that are available for EV charging stations. But then to answer your other question, I think there is, I think over time there is interest in going beyond that. And there's a number of agencies and just a focus at the state level to see how there can be more emphasis on bringing some of the greener technologies into access, make them more accessible.
Okay. Conversation. We get a couple of questions.
I just want to add, I'm working on a stationary power system, fuel cell, similar to Bloom Energy.
Okay.
And we have 1,000 systems running in Europe, and we have 20 systems running in the state now. So I'm trying to build the models in North America.
Thanks. I actually have a question for Ahmad. How are you getting your electricity for the warehouse? Are you using solar or?
So we're in a municipal town. We're in one of the very few regulated towns in Massachusetts. So our power is supplied by Hudson Power and Light by the town. And there's very few incentives when it's a municipal to have installed solar.
Right.
We also don't own the building, so we have very little say and also very little incentive to put a very expensive solar installation on our roof. Ideally, we would want to operate a microgrid. So that conversation of having a fuel cell kind of cogen situation with solar. Solar doesn't quite cut it for the amount of power that we do use. Our power is very concentrated in a small area. So a fuel cell or an on-site generation capability would be a lot more.
So Ahmad, we can talk about that. We are doing a couple of microgrids.
Yeah, so that's something that we would look into when we would move into a deregulated town, because power gets more expensive in those places.
Yes.
And we would want to be able to offset from a cost, but also from a sustainability perspective. Yeah, I'd love to.
And on that point, I think there are 42 municipalities in Massachusetts that have their own electric companies, in addition to Devon's,
Yes.
which is
In
the
South
home.
Hadley, where we have a site, has
Yeah.
the same thing.
Not all of them are very hospitable to industrial facilities. Most of them are actually anti-industrial and are very expensive. Like Belmont, I think, is one of them, where the
Yeah.
industrial rates are ridiculous. But some of the Hudson, Peabody are some of the ones that are very industrial friendly and have special
I
rates.
think you'll find West Boylston as well.
South Hadley.
Well, we have a lot of unregulated communities in Middlesex 3, so. Not just Billerica, but there are other ones as well too. Yeah, Sophia, John.
Yeah.
I was just going to point to people so they should not.
Yes,
Yeah, in Lowell, Chelmsford. There's not part of it, so sorry. Any other questions you want to jump in? I know you had a question earlier as well too.
Yeah, one other one. We're on a contract with a Texas company doing EV charging stations. Now they're looking for quantity, and maybe Jamie jump in here, but is the minimum 100 EV chases to EV charging stations to one location, or is that negotiable?
They're looking for office,
hotels, other retail. Yes. Yeah, in their play, they totally will fund the capital improvement for the EV station and the infrastructure up front. And they would just then pass on a rental situation with whoever the owner of the property is. But this is the first company we've come across that's doing a 100% of the capital, play for the benefit of the user.
That's also what I'm doing. So yes, I
Great.
want to talk about.
Can I ask you to introduce yourself? I'm sorry, can you tell me a little bit about who you are and where you?
Yeah, it's Duncan Chapman. We have a KW Government Services Group that works across the country, helping municipalities and government agencies look to potentially create revenue from their portfolio. But because of our play, we're getting into a lot of things that support, regional and metros and municipalities. So I can get you talk after.
Thank you.
So we have a little time left as well too, and I have a couple of questions as well. But first, any other thoughts? Erica, go ahead.
One of the things that I've noticed when I talk to companies who are interested in coming to Billerica is they have issues with power. And so, and I don't know whether any of you can talk to your track record or your experience dealing with the state, dealing with National Grid. I know they were at an event a few weeks ago, but just, I don't know, what can we as municipalities do to foster that conversation or to advocate for companies who are struggling to get the service they need from National Grid? We don't have local power. And this is the right, but that's something.
I don't know about you guys. We were probably on the other side of the equation than Gus and Ben. But when we were looking for moving out of Burlington, we were under Northeastern's umbrella, so we didn't really have direct ties to the utility. But going out, we had to do a lot of due diligence into where we wanted to pick our site, and our site selection was very heavily dependent on power spend and also ease of doing business with that utility, whatever it is. Eversource was the most difficult and was the least hospitable in terms of rates for industrial users. National Grid was a little better. They had some incentives, but a lot of their incentives are for retrofitting or upgrading to more sustainable, which we don't fall in that category. We already use LED lights. We already use very efficient HVAC systems. So we're not and it's a new build, so we don't fall into that category. And then being able to access, we're not in a tranche of the market where we're big enough to be able to bulk buy our own power. We ended up stopping all of this when we found Hudson and municipal locations were just easier to deal with. But when we were going down the path of working with brokers to consolidate our power spend with other people and be able to work on our energy cap and figuring out all of that stuff with a deregulated. I found it to be so incredibly complex to understand how this works. And I had to go through 3 months of educating myself on what to do and what to expect, because it was difficult to talk to National Grid as a smaller industrial user. I wasn't even an option to talk to. So I had to kind of go find my own way. So maybe having the town be having a little cheat sheet user manual of this is what you're going to expect. This is how you can save. Work with these people. They will help you bring down your utility bill. They will help you understand what goes into those charges and all that stuff. That will make it a lot easier for businesses who it matters to, to come in and.
Okay. Got a lot of questions. Ali, go.
Just if I can put in a quick plug for Lowell, I'm the Director of Economic Development there. We have a staff person at the city. That's their whole job, is to help with energy savings. And it's not, yes, for residents, they tie them into
Mass Save and all those programs, but they can also work with larger businesses. And we're really trying to be innovative with that. We've worked with UMass Lowell on a district geothermal project. So where there's a person who in the city who you can just talk to about stuff like that, which is great.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Catherine Moses, she's awesome.
You go ahead, Sophia.
So here is an idea, because I hear these happened 6 months ago and this is happening today. So what do we do to keep the conversation going? And more importantly, on my side, not to lose startups who incubate here and then go to a different stage just because they get more incentives or space or everything in between. I was talking to Secretary Howe because we lost 2 major startups, and we said, what can we do to be part of the discussion early on? I think what Lynne proposed as a green team that can sit and brainstorm and talk about, create a list of all the needs that are out there that we can, listen to and put together, that's a great start. Because then whatever we discuss here is going to be forgotten. There's not going to be any action plans, and we will each go our merry ways and maybe meet in another 6 months. Whereas I think now there is an infrastructure to keep it going.
Great. And you would come up. Yes.
Yeah, just in response to Erica's comment and question, the issue that we're grappling with now is with utilities, with National Grid specifically, is grid interconnection. So we would like to acquire an electrolyzer to produce hydrogen so that we're not having it trucked in order to undertake our testing of engines and so on. And so it's just something that makes a lot of sense. And right now, when we're testing our engine, we're producing electricity, but we don't have anything to do with it because it's in a lab. It's not on a vehicle, for instance. So we're just dissipating it. So it's just crazy. And we want to acquire electrolyzer, have it be renewably powered, interconnect to the grid. And this is just a huge roadblock with National Grid is getting that permission. We're part of a group study now. We've been bounced to, I think, the Bill Ricca group study that's going to be complete in 2026, something like that. So it's just maddening, especially as a clean energy company. So it just seems like
that's all within
political, technical factors.
That's all within the national, or in this case, Eversource.
What's that?
That's all within the Eversource load zone.
We are in National Grid.
National Grid here, got it. And again, like Ahmad's already figured out, you got to go to one of these municipalities or go start with Devon's. I happen to be a commissioner at the DEC there. And Devon's is very innovative, and with MassDevelopment's help as the manager of Devon's, we'll get it done.
So we'll get it done in the Middlesex 3 region as well, too. But actually, no, we do have a lot of contacts with National Grid as well, too. So we need to bring them into the conversation.
Yeah.
And part of it is bringing them in earlier as well. But we do have kind of a game plan when we have issues, which is often having 10 people knocking on their doors so until they say, okay, we get it, we'll do it. And that seems to work. It's very inefficient, but it has worked well.
I just want to also say one more thing, that I believe Mass CEC has just started a pilot program to give technical assistance to companies that are looking at how they can reduce their energy consumption. And they sent out kind of some guidelines. They put some information out. I can send that to you, Erica, afterwards.
That'd be great.
That might be helpful to look at. And it really is equivalent to also what, I'm almost afraid to say their names now, National Grid and Eversource have been doing to provide that kind of technical assistance to also help think about how to reduce energy consumption for multifamily housing, what I mentioned earlier. So they've been offering that over the last year. Now Mass CEC has come forward with a similar type of structure, technical assistance that might be worth pursuing or looking into.
So I did have some questions in terms of challenges and opportunities, and I know we have a number of workforce folks. We've got Middlesex Community College, UMass Lowell. I know the technical school is coming as well too. And I don't know if that's something, we're kind of at time, but if there's something in terms of workforce growth, expansion? Do you need people? What kind of skills do you need? Where do you guys stand with all of that? That's you're nodding.
Yeah, so a lot of our focus now is on manufacturing expansion. So, we're now on our 9th generation of technology. So even though we'll keep innovating, a lot of that is consolidated into products that we want to sell. So a lot of focus on manufacturing. As we ramp up over the next couple of years, definitely we'll need manufacturing technicians, automation technicians, those kinds of things. So as you know, we're already looking to connect with and have connected with some of the local schools. So that's very beneficial for us. But I'm the guy that you can get in touch with if that's a resource that you have available.
And we also have a shuttle program as well too,
Yeah.
that I'm going to connect with Michelle Brooks, who runs our shuttles as well too for transactions. So I know E-Ink has been using it from the beginning, so that's another resource as well too. And so there's a lot of synergy here, a lot of connections. So I'm gonna end this meeting so that you guys can all kind of make some of those connections as well too. But before I end it, I want to ask you guys to all help me thank our panel, Ahmad,
Here at E-Ink, we'd be happy to continue to host a green team for the Middlesex 3 Coalition. And if anyone is interested to come up and see me at the end of the meeting, and so I can take some names and we could connect. So that would be great.
Great. And I'm also going to say, so this is our last event for 2023 official event. And there are a lot of changes that are happening. So a lot of new things that we're going to be doing for 2024. I want to do more. I mean, there's so much clean tech, so much happening in this space as well too. So I want to continue this as a, more of a series or more discussions as well too, because I know there's a lot of innovative companies, a lot of resources, just a lot of things that we can do. So whether we do meetings or just even like a Slack channel to kind of get people to connect, we can do that as well too. So if you're interested, we'll be sending out a survey because there's some other initiatives that we want to do on housing, perhaps a bus tour. I'm trying to figure out if, what the interest is. So we will be reaching out to you over the next few weeks on a lot of those as well too. So with that, again, thank you to our panel. Thank you to E-Ink for hosting us. Thank you for coming, and please, you're not kicking us out yet, are you? All right, so we can continue the conversation as well too.
Welcome to stay.
Wonderful. Thank you, Paul. Appreciate it. Thank you, Lynne. Thank you.
Hi.
My car is I live in Concord and I spent 20 some odd years in education and I was